They're negotiating, we think, in good faith. We're going to find out. We're getting the help of some incredible countries that want this to be ended because it affects them. We're giving them till tomorrow, 8 o'clock Eastern Time, and after that, they're going to have no bridges, they're going to have no power plants.
So President Trump's deadline for Iran is moving right now, less than 12 hours away. The president threatening to wipe out Iran's entire civilization off the map, in his words, unless it agrees to reopen the Strait of Hormuz and get a nuclear development on its program there. I want to bring in Bret Baier to talk about the latest. Bret, good day to you. Good morning.
Hey, good morning.
I want to try and piece a few things together here. We're all parsing the language, trying to figure out what move is the next move. Here's J.D. Vance about 2 hours ago in Budapest, Hungary first. Watch.
As the president has said, very shortly this war is going to conclude. And I think the nature of the conclusion is ultimately up to the Iranians. I think there really are two pathways, and I'm oversimplifying this a little bit, but I think pathway one is where the Iranians decide they're going to be a normal country. They're not going to fund terrorism anymore. They're going to be part of the world system of commerce and exchange. And that's going to mean much better things for them economically. It's going to mean better things for the peace and safety of the world.
So I guess we can take that any way we want. My conversation earlier this morning with sources close to the negotiations, this is the line that sticks out to me. If we get lucky, we will have something by the end of the day. And we're all hoping we get lucky, right? And in the last hour, it appears that the Iranians have released 2 French citizens who have been held in Iran for almost 4 years. And Macron is now saying that they are en route back to France. So you just look at this in terms of maybe there's diplomacy, maybe there's something happening. How do you see it from your vantage point there in Washington?
Well, more importantly, how does the president see it? I think yesterday, good morning, I think there were more tankers that went through the Strait of Hormuz yesterday, 21. It's not the 135 that usually go through. But I just got off the phone with the president, and he called, and I said, listen, if you were to put odds on it, what were the odds that this is going to end up being a negotiated deal? He said he wasn't going to put odds on it, but he said 8 p.m. is happening. That's what he said. He said, it is, if we get to that point, there is going to be an attack like they have not seen. Now, he's sticking to that at this point. Now, he said if negotiations move forward today and there is something concrete, that could change. But at this hour, he didn't want to put odds on it, but he said it is moving forward with the plans that we have. That's a huge deal. And obviously, we all think that it's a thing that he's putting out there to say, don't do this. He says he doesn't want to do it, but he is, at this hour, sticking to it and saying it might be likely if they don't come to the table.
Bret, how do you think he defines concrete?
Good question, Dana. I think, this has been a moving target, but I do think that laying it out there like this, he is saying that this is as concrete as he gets. Saying 8 p.m. Eastern time is pretty specific. So
yeah, Bret, I didn't interrupt you there, but I was just going back to what he said yesterday in the briefing room. He said it's a significant proposal, talking about Iran's response. It's a significant step. It's not good enough, but it's a very significant step. So maybe they can take that a step further. Maybe it's delayed 8 to 10. Maybe it's delayed for another half day. Because part of our conversation today is, who are you talking to?
Right.
Who's got the authority to make decisions?
Listen, we were here last week and saying that after the Pakistanis tried to come in, and they were saying the communications is not significant. Steve Witkoff has said the biggest problem has been communicating, and the president noted that at the press conference yesterday, saying that the communications and who you're dealing with and how they get the message out. He said that they're bringing notes in, and he simplified it. But I do think that there is a real question about who holds the baton and who makes the decisions inside Iran. That said, I think that he's saying this and will stick to it unless there's significant movement today. And you're starting to hear that from the vice president and others that they see a light at the end of the tunnel.
It's interesting to hear that your perspective on it, because you talk to him regularly, you can feel it, and you sense the tone. And tomorrow, the NATO Secretary General is going to be here. President Trump said this about NATO yesterday.
I'm very disappointed in NATO, very. I think that NATO, I think it's a mark on NATO that will never disappear. They're coming to see me on Wednesday. They're going to say, oh, we'll do this, we'll do that. Now they all of a sudden want to send things. I'd love to have a little help. He said, no, sir, we'd rather wait till you win. I said, I don't need help after we win. NATO is a paper tiger.
Any more on that, Bret?
Not in this conversation I just had, but I do think that they have a good relationship with the NATO Secretary General Rutte, the president and him. So I wouldn't be surprised if Rutte comes bearing something, some support. Maybe it is the Strait of Hormuz, maybe it is ships, maybe it's something else. But I bet that they come with something. But there is a frustration, not just from the president, from other people inside the administration, about NATO's reluctance.
The conversation could be really
side.
different if this deadline is 8 p.m. tonight. Then the conversation is maybe
100%.
Could I put out another breadcrumb out there?
Yeah, please.
I mean, J.D. Vance is in Eastern Europe. I mean, that's just a short hop to talk to these negotiators if it were to come to that. And Politico writes that Vance is on standby in the Iran talks. Now, we know Witkoff and Jerry Kushner are the leads, but this suggests that Vance could be tagged if there's a direct meeting with Iranian officials. Geographically speaking, he's practically there, Bret.
That's exactly right. And I think he is relishing that moment, the possibility. And if the Iranians are saying, we want someone at that level, he's ready to go to do the negotiation. But right now, it is still Witkoff and Jared Kushner who say they have a communication.
And conversely, if the Iranians were to reject that offer of mediation from Vance in the region, that would be a pretty clear signal that they're not moving on the 10-point plan they put forward yesterday. Last comment.
Big time. Listen, we're coming off a weekend where this was a major military success, getting this down pilot in that mountain. And you think about all the specifics that we heard about that rescue, and both pilots. And there is a feeling that there's momentum here militarily. The president feels that. He is suggesting that he doesn't want to do what he said he's going to do, but I have a feeling that he's going to do it if you get to 8 p.m. Eastern time.
Okay, so we're just getting this right now. We were reporting 2 hours ago that they're indefinitely talking. Absolutely was the comment I got. Wall Street Journal is reporting right now that Iran has cut off the diplomacy with the United States. It's just one line. I don't have much more detail about that at all. But that's just crossing the wires right now.
So, I mean, publicly, they've done that throughout, and still, we've had conversations with people inside the administration that say, here's what's happening, here's the communication, here's what's going on. So, you know, what's the public Iran and the private Iran? Don't know. I do know there's a deadline, and I have a feeling that it's going to be met.
My source, we're absolutely in touch with Iran. We are absolutely, it's been productive. That was 2 hours ago. Maybe it's the same, maybe not. Thank you, Bret. See you at 6
All right, see you guys.
Watching the clock. Thank you.
Be sure to like and subscribe for all the Fox News latest on YouTube, and catch full shows streaming now on Fox One.